Problem 17 wants us to determine the slope of the line passing through the points 420 and -8, -4. To first do this, we need to realize which of our numbers are our x's and which of our numbers are our y's. I like to write a little x below our x's and a little y below our y's so we can figure out and remember those numbers as we go through the problem. Now, slope is defined as rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x. So we want to look at our y numbers and figure out how much they change from one to the next, and look at our x numbers and figure out how much they're changing from one to the next. We want to look at one y and subtract it from the other. So our top of our fraction is going to be 20 minus -4, and the bottom of our fraction, where we put our change in x, is going to be 4 minus -8. One of the most important things when we're finding our slope is making sure that we're starting from the same point every time. So notice that I started with 20, which was in my first point with my y's. So I have to start with 4 for my x's, which is also in the first point. Now I can simplify. Now 20 minus -4 is going to become 20 plus 4, just like 4 minus -8 becomes 4 plus 8, because whenever we subtract a negative, that's like adding. So 20 plus 4 is 24. 4 plus 8 is 12. 24 divided by 12 is 2, and that's my slope. Problem 18 wants us to find the slope of the line passing through the points -5, 7 and 10, -13. The first thing we want to do is figure out which of our numbers are our x's and y's, and then we can remember that slope is rise over run, which is the change in y over the change in x. So I want to subtract my y's on the top of my fraction and subtract my x's on the bottom of my fraction. On top, then, we're going to have 7 minus -13. Because I started with 7, I need to start with -5 for my x's. So I have -5 minus 10 on the bottom. I can simplify now, and 7 minus a -13 is going to become 7 plus 13, which gives me 20. -5 minus 13 gives me -15. As I divide these two numbers, 20 divided by -15 is -4/3, and that is my slope. In problem 19, we're given a table of values for x's and y's, and we want to determine the slope and the y-intercept of the line. Now remember, our slope is the change in y over the change in x. In our table, the bottom row is our y's, the top row is our x's. So when we're finding the change in y, we want to choose two of our y's and figure out what the difference is, what the change is. So from -5 to -3, we're going up 2. We're going to do the same thing with our x's, and it's important we use the same 2 points. So our change in x from 0 to 2 is up 2. Now we know our change in y is a positive 2, our change in x is a positive 2, so we can write those in a fraction over one another, and 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. This is our slope. Our y-intercept is where x is going to be 0, and we can see from our table that we have one point where x is 0. That point is our first point here, 0, -5, so all I need to do is write that in for my y-intercept, and we're done. Problem 20 wants us to use the table again to find the slope and y-intercept, and this time we've got our x's on top and our y's on bottom. Remember that our slope is the change in y over the change in x, and so as we look for the change in y, we're going to feel what the difference is, see what the difference is between these two numbers. So -11 to -8 is going up 3. Our change in x's from -2 to 0 is up 2. Our slope then is going to be positive 3 over 2, and we're ready for our y-intercept. The y-intercept is where x is 0, and where x is 0 in our chart is at 0, -8. That's our y-intercept.